Welcome, everyone. My name is Dennis. I'm with Mirabel Technologies. I'm actually one of the software consultants here for a number of the products that we have. Most of them you probably are more than well aware of, but we also have the Digital Studio. You probably have some Newspaper Manager users as well on the phone, and then obviously our Magazine Manager is our one of our main products. Again, welcome everyone. This is sales overview. This is for our sales reps. I'm kind of doing a very high level sales training today. We're going to try to fit in about well, a good three hours plus within an hour. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to kind of show you just on one of our consultant sites, which is kind of an internal site where we do some testing, etc., on some of the interface options, as well as some of the best ways to take the most value out of actually using our CRM. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and actually get started. So one of the things that people always ask me is that, first of all, well, it's web-based software. So it being web-based software itself, what do you recommend a certain browser? Do you, what exactly do you, how exactly do you go about that? So I know that even though we do test on many different versions of browsers, and you can conceivably use any type of browser itself, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, etc. I'm kind of a Firefox and Chrome guy myself, but I always tell my clients that you want to make sure that you do have a backup browser. And the reason being is that if you only use one browser and you ever run into maybe any sort of an odd error or an odd screen itself, having a backup browser actually allows you to kind of bypass that. I know that Microsoft is always guilty a little bit of releasing some updated patches or some a new version without maybe properly testing sometimes. And so if you do kind of run into a problem with one browser, it's always good to have a backup. And just to backtrack a little bit here, this is one of our webinars, and if you are familiar with the past webinars that we have had, then this will be kind of a review for you. But for those that are new, just so you know, you do have the ability here during this webinar to ask a question. And if you do need to ask a question, you're going to see on the GoToWebinar interface itself the ability to kind of raise your hand. There's a little icon there that looks like a hand. And you are able to put a question down in the question area. I do have some colleagues that will be addressing those questions, not only throughout this session, but they'll probably follow up with you as well, depending on the question itself. In addition, this will be recorded and is being recorded. And so if you do need to go back and actually review any of the information itself, just feel free to do that within our help area. And we're going to actually spend some time on that help area again today. Okay, so just starting off here again, depending on what the name of your site is, and normally you want to make sure that you don't use an HTTP nor a www in front of the name of the site. You just want to type in the name of the site. Basically, in this case, since we're using a test site, it's consultants.magazinemanager.com. Just go ahead and make sure that you don't use the HTTP or the www. Once you get there, you will be presented with a login page. The login itself is your first initial last name, all lowercase, and your password, depending on exactly whether or not you've changed it or not, should be set by your administrator. And look at that. There's a webinar today, and luckily all of us are all signed up for it. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK to that. Just briefly taking a look at the interface itself, you're going to see that I'm actually logged in as an administrator. If you are not an administrator on the site itself, keep in mind you will not have this management tab up here in the upper left-hand side. Your view will actually start with customers. Okay? Underneath this tab view itself, there is a calendar. I know that there's a great deal of talk right now regarding our imminent release of the Google Calendar Sync. We actually have a number of our clients right now that are on the beta. Again, we're probably looking at a couple weeks away from actually releasing that to all sites. Basically, with the Google Calendar, once that's integrated in, you will be able to put information in events itself within the Magazine Manager or the Newspaper Manager calendar. And then once that's done, you can simply sync across to the Google Calendar that you set up here, and vice versa. Again, this is just going to be calendar and events. Basically, those slots itself, you're not going to bring over any email. That would be a complete nightmare, and nobody would want that. But having the actual calendar itself sync over and go both ways there is going to be very, very beneficial for you. Okay. I want to direct your attention here actually to the upper right-hand side of the screen itself. These are those important icons we were talking about, especially that help area. Now, within the help area itself, if I'm going to go ahead and launch that, yeah, let's make sure I've got, yeah, looks like my help area is not launching here, which means that I may be, there we go, and that's right behind me there, no problem. First time with the new presenter. The help area itself, just keep in mind, you know, we have actually we constantly are enhancing the software itself, as well as creating some very, very valuable videos and video tutorials for you. Now, whenever somebody tells me, hey, Dennis, you know what, go ahead and watch this hour-long video to get the answer to what you need, or 2-hour video. I mean, the first thing that my reaction is to that is basically a dial tone, and then I remove them from my contact list. Now, nobody has 2 hours or an hour to watch around with a video for a specific problem. However, what we've done with our Learning Center videos, if you simply click on the Learning Center videos area, you can see that all of the different topics are segmented out. And what's nice about this is that you can simply go in, and let's say within sales, and I can find a quick 6 to 7 minute long video dealing specifically with the topic that I need. I don't have to wait around. I don't have to search through an hour video or 2-hour video. This is actually bringing me right to the information that I need here. Again, these are segmented out according to different areas from within the software. And so I highly recommend utilizing these and leveraging these because of the fact that most of the time, anytime you run into any sort of an issue, you could probably find that answer right within here. Now, going right along here, I do want to also tell, for a lot of people, they probably aren't aware of the fact that we do have a mobile site. And when I say we, I mean basically you. You actually have the ability to go in on your own site and basically bring up your information itself on your smartphone. Okay? The reason why I say smartphone right now is because if you do have a tablet, like an iPad or an Android tablet, we highly recommend using your full site. So it actually is just the full .com site. But if you do happen to be on the phone, on your smartphone, and you just kind of want to bring it up real quick, maybe to search for a quick contact or kind of take a look at a proposal, something like that, you can just simply bring up your name of your site itself. In this case, instead of the consultants.magazinemanager.com, I would just simply replace the .com with .mobi, and that's M-O-B-I, like mobile. Okay? That does bring a very kind of optimized view down for the smartphone itself, and so as you can probably imagine, since you're dealing with a little less real estate than you would if you had a tablet or even on your desktop computer or your laptop, it still does allow for a nice little searching of within contacts, within additional information. We also have an area down here on the left-hand side of the webinars, and like I said, this is a webinar that will be recorded and brought up and actually uploaded to our past webinars area. I highly recommend, regarding the actual webinars themselves, to kind of go through those. If there's any managers or administrators on the phone today, recommend going in through some of these sales areas, but especially this Get the Most Out of Your CRM Solution video. Ryan Dorn, he's kind of a renowned industry leader when it comes to sales training and actual CRM productivity. He did this video on last year, and it is absolutely fantastic, and it'll kind of help you out as the administrator and even from the sales side to get a lot of good ideas regarding how to best leverage the tool. Okay? Also, at the very, very bottom there, if you ever do need to contact any of us, just keep in mind that you can click Contact Us and actually go over there. Let's say that if I was your software consultant, and I can see there's a few of you on the line here today that that's the case, you can simply click here. That will actually bring up what's referred to as the time trade link. And for those that are I do have the accounts for, unfortunately you will have to hear the same joke again. Remember, folks, this is me actually smiling, so you can tell that it was my second marriage, not my first. All right. If you do need to get a hold of me, though, this does take me directly to takes you directly to my calendar, and you can actually slot some time that way. I look way too happy there. All right. Going back to the actual interface itself, over here just to the right of the help icon, we do have the support ticket. If you do run into any sort of an issue or a weird screen or something just doesn't look completely right, just know that you can enter a support ticket. These would be for bugs or for maybe an odd error, or especially if for some reason, God forbid, that you're kind of stuck and you can't actually get into the system, something like that. You can actually put a tech support ticket in. Tech support is free. And just kind of keep in mind that tech support will not actually pick up the phone and call you directly on that, but you will get an email confirmation, which will provide you the ticket number. Always make sure whenever you're entering a tech ticket that you put as much information as possible. And there is actually the ability there as well to put in some screenshots, which is kind of nice. That kind of helps everybody get the situation resolved. And so just make sure that you do understand that, that the more information, the better on that. Just to the right, there's a home icon. This is pretty self-explanatory. It takes you back to the actual home screen itself. We also have a print active tab. This will allow you to print whatever is currently active on the display itself. Over here to the right, we do have a refresh tab. For folks on the phone that have been using the site for a while, or actually the system for a while, this kind of becomes your best friend here. This refresh tab itself will actually back you out one session on the majority of screens, so that's kind of nice. Instead of having to go all the way back to home, it'll just back you out one screen, again kind of saving that initial session itself. And then finally over there to the right, we do have a log out. If you do need to log out of the system itself, there's your log out icon. Let's go ahead and go back actually to the rest of the interface here briefly. We do have a quick customer search on the left-hand side underneath the calendar area. Now the customer search itself, there is a predictive text area, so if you start typing in maybe a couple words there, let's see if we start putting in some information like the word "the," you can see that, especially here on our consultant site, that there's a number of different listings that start with the word "the." Well, sometimes you don't know what exactly the title is, right? And then maybe you just know the letter. Okay, so not a problem whatsoever. The system itself will leverage a wildcard character, okay, and so you can actually simply search by a word or by a letter. So for example, if I had the letter T, and I know that for some reason I know that that client starts with the letter T, I could just put a little percentage sign in there, and then I simply click the little right arrow, and that will bring up any contact that starts with the letter T. In addition, you can actually search for a listing with the wildcard with the letter with the wildcard in front of the letter, but just kind of keep in mind that that will bring up every listing that has the letter T in it. So save yourself some money on your LASIK and actually just try to use that T or the or any of the words or letters with the wildcard afterwards. Okay? So let's actually take a look here at a listing, and we're going to kind of use the Magazine Manager as an example here. I want you to briefly look at this contact record. Now the contact record itself, this is kind of where everything flows off of. All right. The contact record includes not only every one of the contacts and the subcontacts, but also the address for the individual, the address for the company itself, ad agencies, etc. So let's kind of briefly take a look at the screen. First of all, if you ever need to make any sort of change regarding this main record, just keep in mind that it's very, very easy to do. You just simply go up here to the Edit button, and once you're in Edit, you can see that that actually changes to View. If I wanted to toggle back, I would just simply click View. It would bring me back to Edit. But in this case, I can actually edit any of these fields, any of the information in here. Now, one thing to remember on this is the fact that there are a number of what we refer to as custom fields that are on this site. Your own administrator probably has leveraged some of these custom sites as, custom fields as well. But just as an example, there are some, you may actually look at your site and you probably have maybe a fraction of these. But you can actually put in a number of different custom fields. And so your administrator would be in charge of that. Like, for example, they want to know about the car, they want to know a business location, etc. But the main ones up here that everyone should have would be obviously the company name if I wanted to change that. You can see that there's a priority field in here as well. and the priority is actually not being used right now, so we can probably give it a priority. And by the way, on this drop-down, you can see that we edited the original listing. So on your site, you may have A, B, C, D, or E. Remember, you can always talk to your administrator and actually say, hey, can we change that to maybe A for advertising, or A for hot lead, or B for warm lead, that sort of thing. Okay. I'm actually going to change this to hot lead. I also know that up here on the upper right-hand side, something that I always stress with my clients is the need for categories. Now, the categories you probably have on your site, they are very broad descriptions of a certain maybe industry niche for that particular prospect. Why would you really care about this? Well, let's say if you wanted to actually communicate out and maybe do quick searches, for just people who are in the automotive area, that you've got some prospects that are in automotive. Or restaurants, etc. It's very, very nice to be able to kind of further designate some additional criteria for all of your prospects. And so categories helps you do that. And not only does it help you with searching and also for the emails and communication, as I said, but also for the reporting for your managers and for your directors. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to hit that view again just to get back to that main record. And I want to briefly also show you a few other things here before we start going a little bit deeper down. You can see that up here in the upper left-hand side with that first address, this is actually our address here in Fort Lauderdale. Okay. And you can see that once we've got that address in there, there's a little map link. Okay. A lot of my clients like to do is that they need to make sure that with that map link, if they click map, this is supposed to tie in directly with Google Maps. Okay. And because of the fact that it is tied into Google Maps itself, and by the way, that's not actual size, I'd never be able to fit in here. But with Google Maps itself, if they cannot find you, then you know most likely it's a good check and balance. You know that you do need, as the rep or as administrator, to go back in and actually change that address and make sure that that's updated correctly. But otherwise, if I've got that address that is coming up, I can send those directions directly to my cell phone or laptop, PD, etc. Kind of helps you plan your day out a little bit. And you can also see that in regards to the actual contacts themselves, we have a number of different contacts that are listed under this sort of test account. If you do use ad agencies, just note there in the upper right-hand side that the ad agency information will be listed up here. And once that is listed with a contact, that will appear in that contact name. Ad agencies, by the way, when you first are setting up an ad agency, you want to make sure that you do add the ad agency that's applicable to that particular client right from that client's record. That makes sense. You just would go in, just simply add that ad agency, and most likely, if it's one that's actually been used several times beforehand, it'll be available to you in a drop-down. Okay. Going back over here on the main record itself, we can see that we've actually made a couple of distinctions here in regards to this main character, this Phil Coulson here. You can see that he does not actually have a set type. He's probably most likely the owner. Or just the primary quote-unquote contact. The reason why I say that is that whenever you have subcontacts, they can actually be specified as different types or different contact types. So we know that maybe Phil doesn't want to be bothered at all regarding any of the billing, okay, but we do want to make sure that that billing contact is designated. And you can see that there's a Joan Tesmer here who's actually listed as the billing contact. If I didn't have any other contacts except for Phil, well, then the system itself will automatically assume that Phil is not only the primary contact, but also the billing contact. If I go down here to the customer details, again, as we talked about, there's a number of different custom fields on this site, and you may have your own as well. But you can see that the main one's here, which is saying who to bill to. You can also see some additional information over here regarding who the rep is. Now, this rep is very important. If you ever do any sort of partnering up of certain accounts, there is the ability under the edit area where we just were, where you can actually add additional reps. So in this case, you have a little view all here. I can see that there is an additional rep, and that would be Karen, just by clicking on that main screen. What's nice about this is it's all on the main contact record screen itself here. So you only have to look at it basically with a really quick glance that first time and see some of the information that's vital to the record. Underneath that, we do have a customer notes and activity area. Now, the customer notes and activity, Just so you know on this is that sometimes there's some confusion regarding when do I put it in as a note, or when is it a callback or a meeting. Well, just so you know, if you see this as a default, it's set as note only. And so what that means is that if I put in as a note only, and I say something like test note, something that people will say, Dennis, you should be in marketing. Man, that's fantastic. How did you come up with that example? Many, many years of practice. With that test note itself, if I simply click Save Information, I can see now in the notes area that it has date stamped it as a type of note, which is just basic note, and it has my name on there and then what the body was that I put into the note. One thing to, no pun intended, note on this is the fact that if you are not an administrator, there's a good possibility that you will only have this edit icon over here. And this edit icon is just going to allow me to go in and edit the note. And once I've done that, you can see that that adds on there or appends it. This delete note is most likely set for your administrators, so you probably, again, will only have that edit area in there. Now, getting back to the types and what the differences are is that if I have a callback, I don't want to put that in as a note. I want to actually put that in as a callback, and the reason being is twofold. If I put the callback in and I decide that I'm going to make a callback for tomorrow, and I'm going to make that at 7 a.m., okay, I'm just going to put a little quick note in saying, speak with Joan. And the reason I'm putting a note in instead of just setting that as just a regular callback itself is because I know offhand that if I just put that in as a callback, I'd probably need to talk to Phil, who's the main contact, but I just want to get a little bit more information. And I simply click that Save Information. What that's going to do is it's going to show up under my callbacks. And we're going to talk a little bit more about callbacks in a little bit here when we look into the My List and actually on the home notifications again, which we briefly went over. Now the same thing goes for, well actually the other reason why with the callback that I want to let you know is that when your reports, if you're a manager or your administrator, you're going to be running some callback reports, and you want to make sure that your reps are getting credit for the callbacks that they do. And also as a rep, you want to make sure that you're actually running the callback report as well and being able to kind of see, okay, what exactly do I need to follow up on, kind of work in the list. Now the same thing sort of goes here regarding the additional fields that come up if you choose meeting. The only difference being here is that with meeting itself, you can see that I can put in the time again for my meeting. I'm going to put one in for today. And I'm going to say that that's at 7 p.m. The wife is going to be thrilled. But that's okay. I'm going to put that in here. And I'm going to say meeting with Joan. I have a callback and I have a meeting. I can go ahead and put Save Information there. Again, because of that very nature of just putting the callback in as well as the meeting itself, it's going to designate it as such, and it's going to show up in my notifications. Okay? It'll also show up in my events as well. Okay? You're going to notice that there's two little options down here too. There's an Add to To-Do List, and there's also Private. Now, just to make a distinction here, the Add to To-Do List, you do have the opportunity to go ahead and actually put a to-do list together, which is kind of a task list itself. And this is over there on the quick links area over here where you can actually explore and go in, put tasks in, and mark them either complete or incomplete. Okay, so you can do that if you click that, depending on whether it's a note, callback, or meeting. But there's also a private option. And just to clear some things up, if you set a note as private, let's say it's just an internal note, and you're saying, man, this client with Dennis, he's always giving us the test note, and what a bad example there for the actual description there. Can he expand out on that a little bit? I will actually let that one slide, no problem, but if you set it as private, that means that only you can actually see that note. Okay, so none of your fellow reps would be able to see it. One caveat on that, though. If you're an administrator or your manager who has administrative rights, they will always be able to see a private note. Okay? So if you do have a gripe or anything like that with your administrator or your manager, you probably don't want to put a note in there. You probably shouldn't anyway. But just kind of keep that in mind. All right, so under the recent notes and activities itself, we do have an area here that's the customer files area. And you can see that there's an add new file link. Okay? What's nice about this is that there's a couple of different things that you can do with the add new file. First and foremost, I highly recommend that when you do a proposal, which we're going to do here in just a second, you do a proposal for one of your clients and they decide, hey, this looks great, and they went ahead and they signed it and they scanned it and they sent it back to you. Always want to go ahead and take that attachment and go ahead and add that as a new file to the client record. So you can see that when we do add new file here, I can actually browse, and I'm going to actually just put this one in here. I'm going to say that's a new file. I'm going to hit open, and you can give this a file name and a description. So I'm just going to basically call this a contract for Phil, and the description is signed contract. Oops. Yeah, I'll just put 429. Once I hit upload, that's actually uploading to our servers. Okay. And then what's nice about it is that I can simply go down there if I'm a manager or even as the rep and go in and say, oh, you know what, I want to take a look at, oh, what is that contract? Did I get that the right signature? Did he sign the right place, etc.? I can simply click on that link and it'll go directly there. Again, it date stamps it as well, which is very nice. Highly recommend if you do use this to go ahead and put in that description in there as well. Okay. Underneath that, finally, we have the related customers. The related customers, these are basically kind of a toggle between different other listings within the database. So, for example, if you happen to have like Bank of America and you have 4 different district branches, okay, you have north, south, east, and west. If I've got this north listing here, I could probably relate the customer by simply add related customers and search for the north one, search for the east one, search for the west one. And basically what that does is it'll put a link in here on the main record, and it'll allow you to easily toggle between those just by clicking on that link. Okay. All right. So that's kind of a basic, the contact record itself here. And again, what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to actually do a proposal. Okay? So let's say that with the magazine manager here listing with Phil, he's decided, yep, you know what, I definitely want to run with you guys, and I'd like you to go ahead and send me a proposal out. So the first thing you need to do, and you need to be aware of, is you need to be on the main contact listing. Okay? See how we have our proposals as well as some of the other tabs up here? If I was on one of the other ones, a subcontact, you're going to see that you don't have the proposal listing. Okay? You have to click that subcontact link back, so we're at the main screen itself. Now the question will come up is that, well, what if I wanted to send it to somebody else on this listing? Not a problem. Wait till you see this. When we start going into the proposals itself, you will be able to choose. Okay? So let's go ahead and click proposals. And you can see we have a couple of test proposals in there, but we're going to actually click New Proposal. And we are going to choose the Amazing Sales Rep Tales template. Now, the template itself, in case you don't know, is basically the form that is going to bring in via mail merge as well as some of the other merge fields from the insertion order and the publication, etc. All that into a nice form that's built from your administrator, by your administrator from the site itself. And you want to make sure that when you're choosing the template that if you happen to have multiple product lines or if you have different regions or whatever, you want to make sure that you're choosing the correct one. And if you do have any questions on which one to use, you probably want to talk directly to your administrator in case, again, that you have that example of different regions or different areas or different products. But for this case, we're going to go ahead and use Amazing Sales Rep Tales. It reminds me I have to renew my subscription. Let's go ahead and hit Select Template. Now there at the very bottom you can see that it's starting this proposal off, and the first thing we need to do here is we need to add line items. So at the very bottom, let's go ahead and click Add Line Items. Okay, and then you're presented with the wizard. Now one thing to understand here when it comes to the actual wizard is that even though you do have this little button right here that says Skip the Wizard, I highly recommend my clients, as well as anyone coming into contact with it, until they're very familiar with using the actual proposal process itself, I highly recommend using the wizard. It's there for a reason, and it'll actually help you out step by step, which is very, very nice. Okay? So depending on what type of order this is going to be, if it's going to be a print order, you would select print, and if it's going to be a digital product or digital order, you would select digital. So in this case, we're going to actually select print. All right, and so I know that the product is going to be tied to that proposal that I used, right? So I used Amazing Sales Rep Stories, or Tales, excuse me, and so that means that I'm going to actually choose for my product Amazing Sales Rep Tales. Now keep in mind that this product list itself, if you have print and digital products, because of the nature of what I selected at the start of the wizard, that's going to dictate on what type of products I see. Okay, so these are only print products. If you have print and digital, you would have had to choose digital and then show all of your digital products just to kind of keep them separated. Okay, so I've chosen Amazing Sales Rep Tales. You do have the ability to double click on that or just highlight it and click next. For the wizard, I always like to just highlight it and click next on there, only because I'm afraid if my Diet Coke kicks in, I might triple click and then, I don't know, blue flame flies out the back. So Amazing Sales Rep Tales we've selected as the product. We're going to go ahead and hit next, and on this next screen, it's going to ask us which rate card do we want to use. Well, the rate card we're going to use is called Amazing Sales Rep Tales. So we're going to go ahead and click that and hit next. Now, in the line item details area, on this screen itself, this is going to show us, based on the rates that were entered by your administrator or your manager, okay, what ad sizes, frequencies, etc., what they're going to actually dictate for that price. Okay. Now you can see that by default, this one has it set as a 2-page spread. Now, there's a number of different ad sizes that are in there, and by the way, for some folks on the call here, you can see that since this is our test site itself, we've actually done some sponsorships in here as well. So if you ever do a sponsorship, you can add that as an ad size. You can do a lot of different things with ad sizes. Okay. Well, let's say that I'm going to do a full page, okay, and then for the frequency, instead of it being the one time, I'm going to make that 6 times. Now, if you see those rates that we've changed, or excuse me, those criteria, you can see in the upper right-hand side, this has affected the rate in the upper right-hand side. Okay. In addition, if I have any sort of premium positions or upsell positions, such as your front cover or your inside back cover or inside front cover, I can choose those and see how that affects the rate as well. Again, these rates are actually put in on the back end by your administrator or your manager. Okay. I also have the ability, if I wanted to put in a section. Now, the section itself is not going to actually deem anything on the actual rate itself, but if I do have sections, this is where I would put this in. This is also going to be helpful not only for some of the values that are going to show up for your template, for your client, but also down the road here, when we go from proposal to contract, it's going to help your production team. Okay? I'm going to say that this is not applicable, this special section here. But I do see that on the notes area, I do have the ability to put in a note. Now, keep in mind, as a rep, whenever you're putting in a note in this add notes area, okay, this most likely, if the template has been set up correctly, this most likely will be displayed for that client to see. So it'll be on that proposal. Okay? So most of the time, if somebody wants to put a note in here, maybe it's, client would prefer to be on page 11 or something like that. Some sort of information that is both known for not only the from the client standpoint, but you want to make sure that the proposal dictates it as well. So you just put that information in. Again, that would flow directly into the template. Okay. You do also have the ability to put in the production charge. If you do know the production charge, you can put that information in. Otherwise, your production team can get together that from their end. Now, barter, if you do any sort of bartering or trade, keep in mind that with barter or trade itself, and actually some people might even refer to it as contra on the phone if you're from Canada, is that you do want to make sure that that's allocated within that field. That will actually subtract from the net if there is barter or trade that needs to be needs to have a value assigned. Okay. Underneath here, we do have a competitor page. Some of this information here is actually more the production side. But let's say, for example, if I've got, as an advertiser, I've got Jaguar, and you know that BMW is going to be on page 8. That would be their competitor, right? So you want to make sure that you probably keep those separated a little bit. So if you know that information, great. Put that information in. I'm going to keep it as non-applicable right now. But with these options as well, this is going to kind of go to your production side so that they can see if it's bleed or right hand, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next from here. I now have the ability to make adjustments to this rate. Okay. So what exactly are the adjustments? And you can see that there is a listing at the very bottom there. This is select adjustments, but just so you're aware is that not everyone actually uses the select adjustments. Let me explain the difference here between select adjustment and adjust rate. Okay? Normally, as we know, when you're out there in the field and you're trying to make the sale and you can't, that 11,600, man, I'd love to bring that 11,600 home, but maybe you're going to go ahead and help this guy out. He's a new client. Okay? You can simply go into the adjust rate area, okay, and you have the ability to either make this adjustment type either a discount or a charge. Now, depending on what you set, and we're going to make it a discount this time, you can put that adjustment amount in that third field there, and I'm going to say, let's give him a $300 discount. And if I hit tab, notice that that does apply now. So my new rate itself is the 11,600 minus the 300 gives me 11,300. And very, very important, if you're going to be making an adjustment out there, or excuse me, if you're going to adjust the rate out there, always have my clients make sure that you put a note in on why. Okay. Not only is it good for the client to be able to see, but it's also a good idea for your manager to find out exactly why you didn't go off of that main rate. Why are we giving them that discount? So in this case, what I will do here is I'll just put in new client discount, and I hit apply adjustment. Notice that what this does is up there at the very top, it's taking that initial rate, and it's also a default discount applied to rate. It's a new client discount, and it allocates it up here. Now let's say that I also am going to leverage an ad agency, and we remember that we do have an ad agency that's tied to this record. I could simply click add agency discount, and I can make sure that that percentage is in there correctly. Okay. This example, I'm actually not going to use the ad agency. I'm just going to say I'm going to build a client, but as you can see here, you do have the ability to do that. Again, you want to make sure there is an ad agency tied to that record. Now that select adjustment, these are adjustments that are created on the back end by your manager or by your administrator. Now, not everyone uses the adjustments, okay? But if it happens to be something that you use quite frequently when it comes to like a $50 donation charge or a tear sheet surcharge or something like that, you can actually maybe ask your administrator. They can build that out for you. And this way you don't have to worry about putting anything in, doing any of the adjustment of the rate, finding out exactly how much that's supposed to be. And you can just simply put in that amount there, and it will automatically calculate it. Okay? Sometimes these will require a note, which this one does. I'm going to say Goodwill donation from client. And I'll simply click Apply Adjustment. Again, this shows up here. I'm thinking that might be good enough here for these adjustments for this particular client, so I'm going to simply click Next. Now on this next field here, when you first start using it, for some people who are actually newbies when it comes to actually using the site itself, you're only going to have this one area up here, which is the probability. The rest of these are custom fields, and you can see that, again, as I mentioned earlier, your administrators and managers can build custom fields if there's a lot of information that you want to capture. But normally you will just have this probability field up here, and the probability itself, you can see that by default it's set to 90, but the probability is used a couple ways. First of all, from your manager standpoint, it's used a lot for forecasting reports. Okay? But think of it this way: is that what is the probability that this proposal will be turned into a contract? What's the gut feeling there? How do you feel about it? In this case, just keep in mind that again, it is set as 90. A lot of my clients actually maintain that as 90. Otherwise, you can choose another one of those values. Okay. Go ahead and hit Next from here. Now we can see that we do have the ability in here right now. Jacob Finger, who's one of our sales folks here at Mirabel, he is actually set as the sales rep. But let's say that I wanted to split the commission on this. Okay, you do have the opportunity here to hit Split Commission, and when you do so, you have a little drop down that shows up, and you have an additional area there where you can choose someone else who's actually a user on your site. Okay. Let's say if we choose yours truly there. All right. Now, one thing, and this is going to sound kind of goofy, but trust me on this. The percentages, they have to equal 100%. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've seen people with 80, 70, 60, and 50. And I don't know if that's Common Core math. I don't know exactly what that is, but at the same time, there we, I wish I could actually sign up for that sort of a commission structure. But just kind of keep it at 50-50 there, or again, if you happen to have more than one rep you're splitting with, again, just make sure they're totaled at 100. Okay. One thing too on this is that you do need to remove. If you do need to change anything, you can't actually edit it, and you'll have to go back in here and just actually make sure that that is 100. It doesn't automatically calculate that. Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll hit next. Now the next area itself is asking us who are we going to be sending this to, or actually who's going to be billing, right? And the system itself has already notified, actually has already ascertained that it's Joan on this, the billing contact. So we're just going to kind of maintain that information. If we wanted to, we could also choose someone different on here. Let me go back here one. Oops. There we go. But again, I can choose whoever I'd like regarding that, but let's just assume it is the default billing contact with Joan. Now the next area itself is that I can actually select issues for this line item itself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select an issue. Now this next screen might pop up here, and I think it's because, let's see, I think we're doing confirmation. Excellent. So one thing too, I just used the one issue. I do want you to know that you can actually choose multiple issues, and my apologies on that. I kind of went right through that screen. Keep in mind that you would basically hold down your control key and just click on all the different issues that you were running in. Okay. Otherwise, if it's just one, like in this case, you would just simply click the one. Okay. Now you can also choose multiple issues by holding down your left mouse button and simply sliding across. For some people on the phone who have like weeklies, that might actually be very beneficial as well. Okay. Now, even though it says done on this, we're not really done, okay, because we're going to click the little done area here, but we also now have the ability to, if we wanted to, view the proposal. So what we're going to do is we're going to view the proposal. Okay. You can see with this proposal itself, it's brought in the information. You can see that it's got the publication, the issue, the year, the inside front cover, the ad size, the retail, the contract number, etc. Okay. It's also got the terms and conditions and who to send the information back to. By the way, that was a quick little logo I put up there, so kind of like that. All right. Now, after you've done the viewing of the proposal itself, as we all know, clients change their mind at the very, very last minute. Okay, and so let's say that you're getting ready to send this off, or you're getting ready to send this, set it up for the client itself and send it to them, and let's say that Phil calls you up and says, no, you know what, I don't want to run in August of 2014. I want to actually run in July or June. Well, remember, you still in this proposal format have the edit area, a little edit icon. I can simply go in here, and I can actually change the issue. I can also change a number of other things. Right? I can change the adjustments. I can change the billing area, the sales rep, etc. I can put a new note in. Whatever you decide to do. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and actually, let's make it the July issue. Just hit that. Make sure confirmation again that the billing's correct. Hit save. Okay. Yeah, just hit save again. And then what this is going to do is it's going to bring me back. Now I've got the July issue here. Okay. Very important step at this point. Okay. You want to make sure that you print the PDF. Now, why do you do this? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, it will give you an actual PDF. If you would like to send an attachment, let's say that you want to go ahead and email this out to the client itself and say, hey, dear Phil, as we've discussed, here's please find the attached proposal, take a look at it, let me know if you have any questions. If you like it, make sure you sign it, scan it, and return it. Okay? But also what this has done is that this has actually generated a note right in the client file. Okay, and so what that means is that if I go back to my customer here and I simply click the little refresh icon, okay, I now can go back down there to my notes and I can see the date stamp that has my name on there because I'm the one that put the proposal in. It's got the date stamp and it's got a little link directly to that proposal. Okay? Definitely get in the habit of printing the PDF as soon as you do that proposal. Okay? That's going to help you out quite a bit. All right? So now that I've got the proposal, let's say that they go ahead and they've signed it and they've scanned it and sent it back to me. What are you going to do? Well, remember we talked about with adding a new file. You simply add that contract directly from the main record. That way everybody knows that you've done your job, you know that you've got everything all set, and anyone can go back in and take a look at that actual proposal. Once that's done, and you may or may not have the ability, this is kind of a decision from your administrator or your manager. Maybe you're able to do proposals, but you don't know how to convert to contracts. Some reps are able to convert to contracts. All that basically means is that you're locked and loaded, and that at that point you can actually have your production people look over everything, get the information, as well as from an accounts receivable standpoint, start billing. Okay. How do you do that? Well, to change a proposal into a contract, and this is again a big if you do have access to do this, you would simply click on the proposal menu and click Convert to Contracts. Once that's done, you can see that that proposal was converted to a contract, Amazing Sales Rep Tales. Okay, and again, your production team is ready to go, as well as billing. Now, with the proposals, if I didn't need to, for some reason, go back in, and if I do need to maybe get rid of that contract, I do have the ability to do so. The nice part about that is that if I do that, I can still make the change from the proposal side, because my proposal is what was actually created at the very beginning, prior to conversion. Make the changes, and then just reconvert it to a contract. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of shift a few gears here, and we're going to go back to that what I talked about in reference at the very beginning, which is going to be the My List area. But before we jump right into that, I do want to take a look at a quick search. Something that I've had some of my clients actually ask me about too is that maybe the search itself could be kind of limited. I know that you maybe want some additional information maybe for the search criteria. That's not a problem. This actually ties directly into My List as well. There are a number of different ways to search within the system. Okay? If I wanted to have a more robust search just right out of the gate, I could simply go in here to my customers area, and I can do a search contacts. Notice that in this case, I've got my company name that I can search by. I've got contact type, again, by billing, etc. But I can also search by rep, by category, the advertiser, etc. If I decide to go by rep, and then I do show everything on one page, I can see all of the people who are actually assigned to me. All right, and if I'd like to, I can also export this out as a CSV file, okay, or spreadsheet. So if I want to do any work on that, I can do so. Okay. But there's also a number of other areas there. I mean, just in regards to the actual sales information itself. If I wanted to take a look from a reporting standpoint as a sales rep, I simply would go up there to the very top to reports, and I have the ability to go ahead and look at activity. I can look at my callbacks. I can see deleted contracts that happened. I can actually do an issue comparison. I'm looking for my proposals. I've got a proposal search. I have the ability to take a look at my goals report. If your manager or your administrator sets you up with your sales goals on the side, this is kind of nice as well. You also have a couple of different quick links directly to that as well, but these would definitely explore some of these reports that are available. Some of these on here are again from our test site, but the majority of them should be up there for you. Just note too that you also have the ability under the report suite to do the sales by rep, product, customer. The sales run sheet is going to be a big one for you. That sales run sheet itself is going to allow you to actually search by their product rate card. You can go actually by certain options, date ranges, etc., and kind of get exactly where you're at for that time. So definitely take a look at the reporting. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to shift into the My List itself. But one thing that I think I talked to you a little bit about beforehand regarding the tabs and refreshing, etc. Let me just show you a real quick tip here. If I need to get rid of all these tabs except for the home and the My List, if I start getting a little too tabapalooza, as we say, I can right-click on Home, and I can just choose Close Other Tabs. Boom. Okay. All right. So the My List. One of the things that has come up, actually came up in the last couple of years, or just from feedback, etc., is that, yeah, you know what, the system's very, very robust, and there's a lot of information all over the place, and you know, the only thing is that sometimes I have to, whenever I'm working my list, I've got to search all over the place. I've got to, you know, bring up all additional tabs, that sort of thing. Well, that's something that actually spawned and created the MyList project. And so basically, what MyList is, it's kind of using it for like a CRM call list functionality. Okay, so this is going to be basically useful for not only from the sales team, marketing team, but you'll see here, because of my administrative logon, that even the accounting staff is able to kind of look at certain things and be able to kind of follow up systematically from the list itself. And so to access My List, okay, you would just simply click the My List tab, okay, and you're going to see that right there off the bat, you've got the My Callbacks. And you're saying, Dennis, I'm so glad you told me about how important it is to set something as a callback and not a note. And this is why. I mean, you're going to be able to, not only you don't have to go through the report for callbacks, but having it right here and say, okay, what do I have for this week's callbacks? You know, I can see that I've got Phil, that, remember, I just added it directly. I also have Fantastic Four I got to follow up with. I got to follow up with Shield. So I know that there's some listings in here. Now, before I tease you a little bit on this, I'm going to go back to actually the main search, because these are just my callbacks from today. Or actually, yeah, I guess these are from today. But you can also see, yep, today's callbacks, two, and then all callbacks. Okay. There is a My Contacts area, and the My Contacts, you're going to see that the first area says My Last 100 Contacts. And what does that mean? Well, that's the last time there's been any sort of action or activity, or the last time a record has been, quote unquote, touched by you or by someone else. It could be a proposal was put in. Maybe a note or a meeting or a contract's been created. Anything within the last 100 days, that is actually going to bring up that last kind of 100 contacts, the last time that information has been set. So that's kind of nice. Now with My Contacts, this is just going to bring up, when you're logged in, who you're assigned to. Okay, so if you are the account rep for a certain record itself, this will show up by default under My Contacts. Now, there is the ability to do a little bit more of a strict search, but before I jump into that, I want to show you something here. Just take, for example, My Contacts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. Again, I'm not opening up additional tabs. I'm not trying to find, you know, okay, close this one, open up this one, whatever. Right? What I'm doing, though, is I'm actually bringing over, just by highlighting on that listing, I can see right to the right of me, I've got a snapshot, basically, of the main record. And what do I mean by that? Well, I can look at this. I can go right in. I can say, please call. Let's see. Well, that's a bad example. I almost, but as a note, speak with owner. Whoops, or Poner. Let's see, owner. Okay, and I can add a note, and I can schedule a callback. And I'm going to get crazy and make it 1 a.m. So I add a callback. I can keep adding information. I'm not opening up different tabs, right? I'm right here. And guess what? Okay, I'm done with Action Unlimited, and let's go down to Advantage Termite and Pest Control. Same thing. I'm working my list from one screen. Okay, all this information is being brought over into the record itself. Okay, I don't have to worry about the tabs. I don't have to worry about whether or not the information is going in correctly or not. It's right here. I do everything from right here. Okay? Not only everything in that case with the documentation, but if I wanted to go ahead and send an email to bugnomore@gmail.com for Rick Brill, I can simply click on that send email. It'll bring up my default email client. I can actually put some information in, and guess what? It puts a note in the record itself. The email was sent outside of the system. Pretty cool. Okay. I can also click on, if I do need to go directly to this record, I do have that opportunity to do so just by clicking on the Go to Contact page. By clicking on that, it goes right there. Okay. And what's nice about this is great if you got, you know, maybe a workable amount, a manageable amount of contacts, Dennis, but let's say that I want to maybe get a little bit more specific. Okay. All right, no problem. All right. If I go to search, I have the ability now to make my search for these additional, whatever results I want back here under my list. and name that as a certain saved search. Okay, so for example, let's say that I'm going to make the sales rep Dennis, and then I'm going to say that the state is going to be, oh, let's see, let's hope I got one in New York here on the test site. By the way, note that you have some additional information here, whether they have existing contracts, the particular city, etc. Okay, or this custom fields area here too. Okay, but I'm just going to search for all of my contacts in New York. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And I have the ability to save this. So I'm going to go ahead and say New York clients. And I'm going to hit save search. Okay. Now I know that I've got just the New York clients here. And I'm going to work that list. And oh, by the way, when I go back into my list, here's my save search again. That'll automatically bring me up to the one. So I don't have to keep renaming the searches or keep doing the searches all the time again. I've got it saved. Perfect. Okay. And again, with this, with being able to save this, you can expand that out as much as you want. You can have a whole bunch of different save searches. Okay. Now, in regarding this area itself, again, this is something that we really get great feedback on. Again, just the whole idea of being able to do that search and being able to do everything from one area is great. Note also that if you don't actually have to go into just the My List tab there, it's also right underneath Customers as well. That'll take you directly in there as well. Now, in regards to what we've done today, and in regards to just the sales overview, and this is a lot of information. This is a very high level sales overview because again we only have the hour here. But just kind of keep in mind that we're here to make sure that you guys are actually getting the most value out of your account and the most value out of your site itself. And certain things like My List, you know, we can send emails out, and I'm sure everyone knows that we like to send our emails out and keep you guys informed, and there's a reason for that. There's a lot of different functionality, and there's a lot of enhancements that are constantly being applied to make the system the best that it can be. And so without any of your feedback, you know, we wouldn't be able to actually add some of these enhancements and the functionality. So it's very, very important that when you go in there and you take a look at some of these new features, or if you read those emails and say, hey, that looks kind of interesting, definitely take a look at it on your own. Definitely go back and check out the actual Learning Center videos under the help area itself. And keep in mind, too, that under the help area, we do actually have some information here that's segmented out according to new features. Okay, I highly recommend going through this, especially maybe taking a look, and not only from the My List area, but taking a look from the actual Google Calendar integration that's coming soon. We would obviously communicate that information out to you as soon as it is available, and that's supposed to be very, very soon. So we're all excited from the beta testers we've had so far. We've been very, very excited about that, and they've been saying that it's working great. So that's a really good thing. Now, if you do happen to need to get in touch with us, again, go through that same help area there, do the contact us. Make sure you do click the click here, which will take us directly to the TimeTrade account for your particular software consultant. For my folks on the phone, you guys know that one all too well. If you do need any of the systems, so just kind of keep in mind, TimeTrade is the best way to get in touch with us. We are on the phone probably 99% of the day. And so if for some reason if you try giving us a ring on that, it's so much easier just to get on TimeTrade, get some slotted time for us all together, and then you know that we've got that set. So again, I appreciate everybody's time today. I hope this was helpful. If you again need any additional information from us, keep in mind that there will be some questions. The Q&A will actually still be going on here for a while after I get off the phone. But if you do need any additional insight or assistance, like I said, if it's not the Learning Center videos or if it's not through the tutorial documents, make sure and reach out to your software consultants for you that link. Again, my name is Dennis. I appreciate everybody's time today, and hope you have a great day.